It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. You can email me as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. You're going to be hearing a lot of the number 36 in the next couple of months. Why? Because the ballot initiative that you'll be voting on in November to reform parts of Prop 47 has officially been labeled Prop 36. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California on occasion, when he's not out there campaigning for Grampy Joe, he's not a big fan of Prop 36. He was asked about it at this press conference this morning, and I'm pretty surprised of just how opposed he is to what seems like a common sense measure. Let's hear what Gavin Newsom has to say, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what's in the bill, and then we're going to do a completely scientific KABC poll where we're going to get your feedback, your opinion, if you'll be voting yes on this measure at 800-222-KABC. First, let's hear what Gavin had to say about Prop 36, the measure to reform Prop 47.
Well, I think it's a bad initiative.
Okay, then.
Well, I think it's a bad initiative. I think it's misleading. They do it under the auspices of a retail framework. It's interesting they didn't even include any changes to the retail threshold, which has gotten so much attention. And why didn't they? Because it's the 10th toughest in America. I know that's widely reported.
Well, it's also wildly inaccurate because Prop 47 took away the ability to aggregate, but you know what? That's neither here nor there. Sure, California's tough on crime.
It's really a drug policy reform that brings us back decades. Very concerned about that. I hope people take a close look at what they're proposing.
Well, just to make things clear, the initiative that got enough signatures to get on the ballot was titled the Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act. Now, that's not what Rob Bonta is going to call it when it's on the ballot, but that's what they would like it to be called. We'll get into the details, but let's hear Gavin complain some more.
So I won't be supporting it. I don't think that's the best way to address this issue on the ballot, locking things in. But I hope all of us are held to some accountability, those that support it, good people that support it.
And it's not just a partisan thing. It is bipartisan who supports it because you've got district attorneys up and down the state, Democrat and Republican. You have mayors of several prominent cities in California, including London Breed of San Francisco, Matt Mahan of San Jose, Todd Gloria of San Diego, not Karen Bass.
To this question, they need to answer it. How are you going to pay for it? Where are the billions of dollars going to come from? What programs? Programs like this, supporting our wildfire suppression strategies, work we're going to do to address the issues of extreme heat, the challenges we have across the spectrum of issues. Where is the money going to come from?
We can't afford to incarcerate anybody if that's what the bill does. We'll get to what the bill actually does. But according to Gavin Newsom, if we pass Prop 36, it's going to lead to mass incarceration, and we just can't afford it. We'd have to cut a whole bunch of programs like the $25 billion we spent on homelessness. Let's hear more from Gavi.
That's targeted and specific, not the scattered shots that folks on the Prop Now 36 are trying to advance, which will bring us back to the 1980s as it relates to drug policy in this state. And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are. That's why I plead with them. Take a look at the details of Prop 36.
Okay, I'm going to take Gavin's word for it. I am going to look at the details of Prop 36. I'm going to tell you the specific details of Prop 36, and we're going to see if Gavin Newsom is right, if the vast majority of Californians, including people that listen to this show, think that it's a bad idea.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
Completely contra. I think he meant to say contrary, but I guess the short of that is contra. So I am going off of the incredibly useful, nonpartisan website Ballotpedia to tell you exactly what is on California Proposition 36, the Increased Drug and Theft Penalties and Reduce Homelessness Initiative. Are you ready to find out exactly what Prop 36 does? If you vote yes, I'm going to give you the quick overview. It would make certain changes to 2014's Prop 47, including classifying certain drug offenses as treatment-mandated felonies, remember that, increasing penalties for certain drug crimes by increasing sentencing lengths and level of crime, requiring courts to warn individuals convicted of distributing things like fentanyl that if their drugs kill somebody, they can be held liable for murder, and increasing sentences for theft based on the value of the property stolen. That is it. That is the basic overview that Gavin Newsom says.
And I think it runs completely contra to where a vast majority of Californians are.
But let's go, like Gavin said, let's get right into it. Let's read exactly what it does, level by level, each one of those pieces, because maybe there's something in here that Californians just won't want. Let's find out. So, the first thing that the Prop 36 reform of Prop 47 would do, I know the numbers are going to get confusing, is it would create a new court process for certain drug offenses, establishing treat-mandated felonies. What is a treatment-mandated felony, you ask? Well, let's find out. This initiative would classify certain drug offenses as treatment-mandated felonies. A treatment-mandated felony would apply to individuals with 2 or more prior convictions for various drug crimes, like possession or distribution, who are found possessing fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, or meth. If the individual agrees to not contest the charge, the person is referred to treatment and after a substance use and mental health treatment evaluation. Individuals who successfully complete treatment would have their felony dismissed. That's right. This is actually going back to what it was like pre-Prop 47 with the original Prop 36 from the year 2000 that said we'd put you in the drug court model. So if you get arrested, and by the way, this is very lenient, arrested on your 3rd time for drugs, well, you either have to go to treatment and successfully complete that treatment, or something else happens. The initiative would require individuals who do not complete treatment to serve up to 3 years in state prison. The current state law classifies the possession of illegal drugs as a misdemeanor. And anybody that's got eyes and ears and noses can, well, maybe just nose. If you have 2 noses, I don't know what's going on with you. You have seen the transformation of the streets of places like Los Angeles, Oakland, San Francisco, just to name a few, because a lot of people who had a lot of problems used to get help, not in the best way possible, but help nonetheless through the drug court system, maybe even through jail or prison. Now we just leave them out on the streets to suffer. So that is a big component of it. Yes, this is more than just a retail theft measure, because if you want to get to the root causes of why there's so much retail theft and so much shoplifting, it's because people need $10 to get their next hit because they're cripplingly addicted to drugs.
And I think it runs completely contra to where a vast majority of Californians are.
So that's just the first aspect. I like that aspect. Love to hear what you think. 800-222-KABC. Next, a future criminal liability warning for certain drug distribution crimes. So this is your fentanyl dealers specifically. It would require courts to warn of future criminal liability. This initiative would require courts to warn individuals convicted of distributing illegal drugs of their potential future criminal liability if they distribute deadly drugs like fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, or meth. The initiative would also require courts to warn individuals who distribute deadly drugs to persons who die from them could be charged with murder. You're seeing certain jurisdictions already doing something like this. This would make this state law. Again, if you kill somebody with the first time you get busted for drug dealing, well, you weren't warned. You've got to get a good old-fashioned Janice Hahn before you can actually get charged with murder.
That's your final warning.
Okay, so far, the Prop 36 reform of Prop 47 is treatment-mandated felonies for your 3rd bust for possession of drugs or distribution of drugs, and warning people that, hey, your drugs are going to kill somebody. Now you know this. If you do it again and somebody dies, you're going to get charged with murder.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
Does it? Also, it would increase the penalties for certain drug crimes, increasing the sentence length and level of crime. This initiative would increase the penalties for certain drug crimes by increasing sentence lengths and the level of crime. It would add fentanyl to the list of drugs like cocaine, heroin, and meth that would warrant a felony charge if an individual possesses one of the listed drugs and a loaded firearm. Because if you've got fentanyl and a loaded gun, chances are you're up to no good. The punishment for that crime is 4 years in prison. Currently, possessing fentanyl and a loaded firearm is punishable by up to 1 year in jail. And you know what happens if it's jail? It ends up just being probation because the jails are overcrowded because of, say it with me, Prop 47, Prop 57, and AB 109, California's criminal justice reform. The initiative would also increase sentences based on the quantity of certain drugs sold illegally. The initiative would also require individuals who receive increased sentences because of this to serve their entire sentence in state prison, regardless of their criminal history. This is the part that Gavin really doesn't like. Because you know how you see those news stories when there's a big fentanyl bust, they had a pound of fentanyl, that's enough to kill every single person in Los Angeles 17 times. I don't know the correct math on this. Well, this would create a new scale where based on the amount of fentanyl you have, because it is that dangerous of a drug, you would get a much bigger sentence. So if you have 28 grams of fentanyl, like an ounce, I know that from my weed days, that would give you 3 years in prison. If you had a kilogram, that's 10 years. 80 kilos, 25 years. And you'd have to serve the entire sentence. So far, Prop 36, the reform of Prop 47, establishes treatment-mandated felonies for people busted for possession only on their third time, and if they complete treatment, no felony. They only go to prison if they refuse to finish treatment. It would require courts to warn of future liability for drug dealers who now know by a court that, hey, your stuff's going to kill somebody. If you do it again, you're getting charged with murder. And for people that are trafficking massive quantities of fentanyl, you're going to get a massive sentence that you will not get half off time for good behavior because what you are dealing with could kill so many people. So far, Gavin, does this sound like something that's...
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
And finally, it also will increase penalties for certain theft crimes. What happens? Let's find out. This initiative, Prop 36, would increase the penalties for certain theft crimes. For crimes where money or property worth $950 or less is stolen, the $950 threshold stays. The initiative would make the crime punishable as a felony for individuals who have 2 or more theft-related convictions. So you get busted for stealing once, nothing happens to you. You get busted for stealing twice, nothing happens to you. You get busted for stealing thrice, now it's a felony. And that could mean up to 3 years in jail or prison, depending on your criminal history. Currently, it's punishable by up to 6 months in jail, which we know does not happen. The initiative would also increase the sentences based on the amount of property stolen. So much like it would be an increasing scale if you're trafficking kilos of fentanyl, if you happen to be one of these massive organized retail robbers that is stealing hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of property, well, you'd spend a lot more time in the clink. If you steal more than $50,000, you get 1 year. Over $200,000, 2 years. Over $1 million, 3 years. Over $3 million, 4 years. And after that, every additional $3 million gives you another 4 years. 1 year per $3 million. Oh my goodness. So that is it. That is what is in Prop 36. That Gavin Newsom says...
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
This is a radio station. This is a radio show that's listened to by people of all different walks of life, of all different political persuasions. There are people that lean to the right. There are people that lean to the left. There are people that don't identify with any party. Maybe they're party curious. Maybe they don't like any of them. But this is an issue that everyone has to notice and deal with. It's an issue everyone's going to be voting on. So I want to know. We're going to do an informal KABC poll right now of you, the listening audience. You heard what is in Prop 36, the reform to Prop 47. You heard what Gavin Newsom had to say.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
Based on the actual description of the bill, do you support Prop 36? Will you be voting yes on Prop 36? Tell me what you think. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Do you support Prop 36, making sure that the third time you get busted for drug possession or dealing, you have a treatment-mandated felony? If you're a drug dealer dealing in stuff that kills people, you get warned by the courts once, you will get charged with murder the next time. If you're dealing a whole bunch of fentanyl, well, guess what? You are going to go away for a very long time. And if you're a repeat theft, the third time, it's a felony. You're going away for 3 years. Do you support Proposition 36? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think. And I want to find out if Gavin Newsom is right or wrong.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. The reform of Prop 47 is on the ballot this November. It's called Prop 36, and it does quite a few things. For the third time you're busted for drug possession or drug dealing, you have a treatment-mandated felony. If you complete drug treatment, no felony for you. If you don't, you go to jail for 3 to 4 years. If you are a drug dealer who is dealing fentanyl, the first time you get busted, you get warned by the court, your stuff could kill people. If you kill somebody, you get charged with murder. If you're a fentanyl dealer that's dealing in a whole bunch of it because of how dangerous it is, you could go away for a very long time. And if you're a repeat thief, if you are stealing over and over and over again, on your third theft conviction, it's a felony. You're going to prison for 3 years. Simple question, because Gavin Newsom thinks this is not where California is.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
Do you support Proposition 36? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Dale in Culver City. Dale, hello.
Hey, Randy, good to take my call, or thanks for taking my call. You know, I was the benefit of a rehabilitation center up in Acton, California, and it's been over 30 years since I've drank or used drugs. And I think that without the rehabilitation center, who knows where I would have been. The Prop 36 is a great idea because nobody wants to be walking over dead people on the street. People are tired of fentanyl. And once again, Gavin Newsom is completely wrong on this issue, too.
I totally agree with you, Dale, and congratulations on the 30 years. That's incredible, buddy.
Yeah, there was Acton up there in Acton, California. Then there was Warm Springs up in San Francisco Canyon. Lots of people went through that place, and all of a sudden the county closed Warm Springs for some reason. But I think Acton's still going. But anyway, it was a good program.
Good to hear it. Thanks so much for the call, Dale. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. You've heard what's in the bill. Do you support Prop 36, or do you think Gavin Newsom is right?
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. More of your phone calls coming up next on the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well, randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. Prop 36 is on the ballot in California this November. It is the reform of Prop 47. It would do a whole bunch of things. It wouldn't wouldn't go as far as some people want, but what it would do, supported by DAs up and down the state, except for Gascon, supported by mayors up and down the state like London Breed, Matt Mahan, Todd Gloria, not Karen Bass, it would increase the penalties for drugs possession. On your third time, you would get a felony unless you took treatment. If you take treatment, felony goes away. It's a treatment-mandated felony. If you get busted for drug dealing and you're dealing in fentanyl, you're going to get warned by the courts that the next time you get busted, you could be charged for murder because your stuff kills people. If you're trafficking a whole bunch of fentanyl, you could go away for a long time. And if you're a repeat theft on your third theft conviction, it gets bumped up to a felony. Gavin Newsom says California will not support this.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
And that's why I want to talk to you, the Californians in the audience. Do you support Proposition 36? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Tell me how you feel about Prop 36. Let's go to Randy in Oxnard. Randy, hello.
Hey, Randy. Pleasure to speak to a fellow Randy. I actually think this doesn't go far enough. So I'm wondering in what universe Gavin Newsom thinks the vast majority of Californians would not support arresting, prosecuting, and convicting criminals.
That is what Gavin Newsom says out loud. I don't know if he believes in his heart, but he seems to think that Californians don't want anybody going to prison. And this wouldn't take us back to the 80s, where if you got busted for a gram of coke, you'd go away for 20 years. This would mandate that you got to go to drug treatment after you got busted with coke for the third time.
Yeah, it seems to be giving everybody plenty of chances. And I can't imagine who's going to object to this. And I don't know the reasons why people would object to it.
Well, and that's what was so funny to me is Gavin Newsom's like, just read the bill. You're going to be so outraged. Read the bill. No one would support this. I read the bill. What's in it is, some people would say, like you said, probably doesn't even go far enough, but at least it is a correct step in the right direction, because currently we give people chance after chance after chance after chance after chance, and we don't help people that are obviously in need of help, because some people need to be forced into treatment.
Absolutely. In fact, we're jamming up the system by all the times that we give to people who don't learn from their mistakes.
You're totally right, Randy. Appreciate you calling and appreciate a fellow Randy. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. And then Gavin gets on this whole thing about the cost. It's going to cost so much money. Well, think about the ballooning of the homeless budget over the last 10 years and how many of the problems related to homelessness cost us a ton of money. Whether it is the drug addictions, it's the thefts, it's the fires, and how much money we spend to fix that problem with no results. Maybe some of that money would be better spent mandating treatment for people who are doing illegal drugs. I am probably of the mind of a lot of people that grew up thinking, I don't know why drugs are illegal. People should be able to do whatever they want. We're doing that here. It's not 100% legal, but it's close enough, and the results have been disastrous. There's a reason these things should not be allowed on the streets.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
Let's hear a little more of what Gavin Newsom has to say about why Prop 47's reform, Prop 36, is so bad.
Well, I don't think they're reforming Prop 47. They're bringing us back to the darker drug policy age on possession. They're asking the taxpayers to invest billions and billions of dollars we don't have without identifying any funding source.
Again, that part of it is not going to bother Californians. We pass a lot of things without knowing how to pay for them.
It's under the guise of 47, but it doesn't even include the felony threshold. Wasn't that the principal mantra of most of your reporting for the last 2 years? Go back to your own reports.
Yes, but a lot of that is also the aggregation. Forget the $950. In other states that have a higher threshold, like Texas, you get busted for multiple thefts. Well, you can add all those up, and now it's felony.
The issue wasn't the issue the threshold? California voters in 2014 rolled back the threshold to $950. They don't even include it in their reform. What more evidence do you need?
Yeah, it's actually a little more lenient. You don't get a felony charge until you've been convicted for the third time.
That this is not.
But again, this is taking us back to the 80s and 90s.
That this is not what they portended to be, or at least suggested to be. So I just hope people take a good look, read it. I've read it. I will not be supporting it.
I read it. I like it.
I don't think it's good public policy. I'll be supporting the bills that we're working with the legislature to actually address the issue and continue the work we've been doing.
Yeah, but those are only about organized retail theft. It doesn't really deal with the plague of shoplifting, and it does not deal with our broken drug system that we broke with Prop 47.
To invest in vertical prosecutions and investigations and investing in technology in counties and communities, sheriff's offices, DA's offices, all throughout the state of California. I was down in Orange County a few weeks ago, and I think we provided over $2 million for the Orange County DA's office on retail theft.
Yes, but how great would it be if there was more of a deterrent, because a lot of the retail theft nowadays is because people know there's no consequences. Let's go to Tim in Santa Monica. Tim, hello.
Hi, Randy. Thank you for taking my call. I think this is a step in the right direction, but if you're trying to address homelessness and crime per se, around probably 200 patients a day, 200 people are detained on psychiatric hold, and all of them, or 90% at least, test positive for meth. And there is no incentive to stop. We spend a lot of money trying to rehab these people. They don't want it. It's also very difficult to get into placement for rehab as one who tries to get these people in rehab.
And that's the thing we should be spending the money on. And I got to imagine when you're in an ER and you're seeing these situations like this, I mean, we love to talk about the mental health crisis in California, the mental health crisis. How much of the mental health crisis is caused because people's brains have been completely fried by meth specifically?
Well, I think that, after around 5 years, you start seeing symptoms of psychosis in general. But you have to understand that, the interactions with law enforcement over substances, very rarely does anyone get detained because, hey, you got caught with meth. It's more of that, hey, you assaulted someone or you did something in the community, running in the middle of the street or something of that nature. And you're talking about 200 people plus in LA County only that have these kind of behaviors. And we see them 24 hours later, we let them go because they clear up from the substances. We don't ever track that, right? So these people are unable to be housed or keep a job, no matter how inexpensive the place is. We've placed people in housing. They just tear the place up and they get evicted.
That's what we keep throwing money at and not realizing if we don't treat these people before we house them, then we're just setting ourselves up for failure. Tim, thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your perspective out there. We got to be spending the money to have the treatment beds, but we also got to be mandating treatment. This is actually something Californians voted for in the year 2000, and it was also called Prop 36. That's what created the drug court system, and it worked pretty well for a while until we dismantled it with Prop 47. Do you support the Prop 47 reform measure known as Prop 36? It would increase the penalties for drug convictions. Your third one, you would be mandated a treatment or you're getting a felony. If you are a repeat thief, your third thieving would be turning into a felony.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Do you support Prop 36? It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC. Prop 36 is on the ballot. It reforms Prop 47, and among some of the things it does, if you get busted for drugs 3 times, 3 convictions, you get a treatment-mandated felony. You get busted for thieving 3 times, the third time it's a felony. But Gavin Newsom says that goes too far.
And I think it runs completely contra to where the vast majority of Californians are.
Do you support Prop 36? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy, Gavin is right for once. Proposition 36 is a step back, and that's why I support it. It's a step back to the 80s era when there were no open-air drug markets provided by the county, when there were no organized smash and grab robberies, there were no homeless encampments anywhere. I was a reporter. He mentioned reporters. I was a reporter at the LA Times back in the 80s, and I can guarantee you it was much better than it is now. So if you ask the average person, do you want to go back to the troglodyte 80s? Most people who are aware of that would say yes.
I totally agree with you. And I think the more exposure that this bill gets, the more support it's going to have. It seems pretty common sense to me. Bill, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Now it's that very special time when we have some very special tickets to give to you. Our thanks to you for being such incredible listeners of KABC, for being part of the Wang Gang here on the News Blitz with Randy Wang. How about this? 790 KABC welcomes Kenny Chesney. The Sun Goes Down tour with one of my favorites, Zach Brown Band, at SoFi Stadium on July 20th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by MTG. Good luck dialing. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. You know what? I don't know if it's just the insane heat wave, the insanity that is Los Angeles, but have you noticed that high-speed chases have gone into overdrive in just the last couple of days? It seems that there's one every 8 hours. And the ones that are going on in the daytime shock me and surprise me because how the heck are the freeways actually moving? But you had that pretty wild one with the woman who was half shirtless coming out of the car that she stole. I think that one was a stolen Kia. I saw one today in Pico Union that ended in a shootout. And then there was the one last night. And I wasn't aware that there was a chase last night because I don't typically watch local news at night. I was, catching up on Game of Thrones. And I start to hear the good old-fashioned LA whirlybirds going around and around and around my neighborhood. And that's when I knew something is up to no good. And usually maybe, it was passing by. Maybe it was street racing. Maybe they're looking for somebody. And I pay nothing of it because what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to go walk outside the house while the helicopters are circling. But later on, as I'm getting ready for bed, I like to scroll through my local news, my Channel 2, my Channel 5, my Channel 7, 9, 11. And what do I see? I see San Fernando Valley chase ends in a wild scene where the mother of the people who stole the car walks up to them and says, "Get out of the car and go turn yourselves in." And I look at the location and I rewind it to see, because they ended up in Reseda. And I'm near Reseda. And it turns out these people who were stealing a Hyundai drove like 2 streets away from here, from this house. That just makes me feel a little extra uncomfortable. But I got no one to blame but myself. I was the one that said, yes, I will continue to live in the San Fernando Valley. But there's a lot of crazy people out there. Can we actually put them in prison, please? There's a lot of people in this county that would never think of stealing a car. For the people that do think of stealing a car, they got to go. Because I could sleep better not having to worry about the fact that people are driving 90 miles an hour trying to evade the police in my residential neighborhood. Thank you so much for listening as we do every single day, try to provide you the local news that matters most to you. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang. If you miss any episode of the show, you can download it at kabc.com. Click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify, search for the News Blitz with Randy Wang, and hit subscribe. Download all the episodes. And what's great, even Apple Podcasts has a little transcription button. So if you're listening to one of our Happy Hour Friday shows, you can see in writing all the locations. And we got another one of those coming up in just a couple days. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow at 5 for another edition of the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC.